The GTX 780, released back in 2013, and the card that we will be testing out today. So, it is a card that is based on NVIDIA's older architecture, it does support DirectX 12, and it has 3 gigs of VRAM. The 6 games which we will be testing out today will include Fortnite, PUBG, and in the FPS category we'll have Siege, BF1, and finally, in the other category, we will have No Man's Sky. Starting off with our first game today, we have Fortnite, the most popular game on the planet currently, and one that runs tremendously well on this card. As you can see at 1080p epic settings, we are getting an average of 82.9 FPS. Guys, that's right above the 60 mark. You are playing this game, no problem, maxed out at 1080p. Should be absolutely no issue, and if you have a 5-year-old card like this and you spend a bunch of money in the old days, well, you'll be happy to know that it still runs games such as this one right here very, very well. Now, I decided since 1080p was not enough, let's go ahead and bump it up to 4K. So, trying out 4K at low, we're still above 60, we're at 77.48, that is perfect. Max and mins were still good enough as far as I'm concerned, and the game ran smoothly nonetheless. So if you want to do some 4K Fortnite, you can actually do it. Now, there are some limitations at 4K. Once you hit the medium settings, it starts going downhill. We're down to about 41.82, that's no longer 60, and it's not even close to smooth, so if you're going to do 4K, just stick to low. Moving on to our next game, we have PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which, by the way, they've done a great job fixing up. Yeah, I mean, it runs much better than it used to, I will give it that. At the very low settings, at 1080p, we do have 114.56, which is much better than what it used to be, and even bumping up to the maximum settings at 1080p is now at 51.96. Now, that's an improvement. When I did my old benchmark with worse hardware, and also when this game was not as optimized, I mean, it ran much worse, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, they've actually done some work into it. I hope they actually improve the game, because it should run a lot better, and hopefully will. And even at 4K, it is kind of playable. I mean, I know a lot of people play PUBG at low FPS just because I don't know what optimized it is in the first place. But yeah, you could actually play it at 4K, though not very smoothly. And if you guys have seen my previous 780 video, it was done on much worse hardware, so this one should be more accurate, and PUBG does run a lot better nowadays. Anyways, let's move on to our Rainbow Six Siege part. How does it run? Well, it runs tremendously well. At low settings, we're getting an average of 134, and even if you try and bump that up, I mean, it's going to run pretty much no matter how you play it, really. Going up to the high settings, not the highest, we still get 85.1 in terms of the FPS, which is very, very smooth. And now finally going to the actual highest settings, the ultra settings, it's still almost at 60. A slight overclock could possibly get you there. And if you ever want to play at 4K, well, it's not 60, and you probably want to play Siege at 60, but I guess, hey, you kind of can. Moving on to our 5th game, there we go. Battlefield 1, 2 years old by now, and how does it run? Well, at the highest settings, high settings at 1080, we're getting a very smooth 72.88, and the game is very, very playable. I mean, overall, Battlefield 1 is a great game in terms of optimization because you can run this card on pretty much anything. And I'll be honest, I had a GT 730, if you've ever seen that video, that ran this game as well. So, yes, it's pretty much playable on anything, and good job, DICE. Hopefully the next game runs just as well, but we'll have to see. Depends on a lot of different factors. And to be honest, I even tried the next thing, which is bumping up to 4K and doing high settings as well. Yeah, no, not even 30. That's not good at all, but I'm pretty sure if you tried 4K at low, you probably would have very playable FPS. So if you do want to do 4K, guys, on this card, it is kind of possible in most games, especially older titles. If you're going for anything source titles or anything pre-2010 or pre-2012 even, you will be able to max it out or get pretty high in terms of 4K. So that is nice. It's always nice when you buy an old GPU and it's still able to perform pretty well after all these years. And moving on to our last game, we got No Man's Sky next. How well does it run? Well, it runs pretty much terrible on every single piece of hardware I've tested on so far, and the GTX 780 is no exception. On a low lush planet at 1080p at the lowest settings possible, we were getting 49.22 FPS in the little benchmark that I do around my base. And, I mean, it just gets worse the higher up you go. It's not really perfect. There's a lot of issues with Next. I feel like they really should update and make it run a lot better, which hopefully they will, because they have done plenty of updates, as Next has shown. So yeah, I guess if you're looking to play No Man's Sky, I mean, you could try dropping it down or just living with the FPS. Going to a desolate planet at the same settings did improve the FPS, and I did notice there was much less issues with actually keeping a very high FPS, but nonetheless, there's still issues when you go on the planet. There's a massive FPS drop going from space onto the planet, and just a whole bunch of other issues. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead and like it. Please, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.